Namaskar. Welcome back to Astrolog channel, and I'm your host Anjita. On our channel, we usually discuss topics related to astrology and allied sciences with some of the world's most renowned astrologers, astrology teachers, and Vedic scholars. We often wonder about our future, whether it's our career, whether it's our finances, marriage, even the global events. But in the Western world, predictive astrology has mostly been about inner awareness and inner healing. And the big question is predictive astrology finally ready to find its place in the West? To join us in this discussion today, we have two eminent guest astrologers. Please join me in welcoming Mr. S.J. Anderson, a US based astrologer who brings a spiritually centered approach to the planetary configurations and their influence on the human experience. And we have Sri Alok Khandelwal, who is an astrologer and an astrology teacher practicing for the past 25 years. He is also the founder and managing director of Astrolog, which is a premier institute in astrology teaching and consulting. Welcome, Alok sir, Mr.
Thank
Anderson,
you.
to our channel today. It's indeed a pleasure to have both of you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Great to be with
Mr.
you.
Anderson, I'd like to start with you. A very, very fundamental question to sort of warm up. How is predictive astrology being perceived in the Western societies, today than it was in the past, say in the past decade?
Yeah, thank you for having me. You too. I'm really happy to be here and join you today and get to discuss this topic with you. Yeah, it's a great question because it's changing. It's changing quite a lot right now in the Western world. I would say that if you go to something like 2016, when there was a presidential election in America and it was Hillary Clinton versus Donald J. Trump. Some of you might remember this. Astrologers were famous in that they almost uniformly predicted Hillary Clinton would win. And they did it famously at the ISAR conference, which is one of the bigger international organizations. It's probably, I'm guessing, some ISAR representatives in India. And so that left a bunch of people in the Western astrological world kind of with egg on their face, we say. They were sort of exposed, and the idea of can predictive astrology even work was a question that was hot on a lot of people's minds. At UAC, which is the global conference that happens once every 6 to 8 years, 2 years later in 2018, and I was at this lecture, a bunch of astrologers got together and debated, is predictive astrology harming astrology? It was something like this was the question. They debated it because of an example like prominent astrologers, the majority getting a prediction wrong. And so I start with that because I think that there is a traditional frame where astrologers sometimes abandon prediction in the West, and they say this is actually something that can threaten astrology and take us away from the benefits of astrology. And to that mind, the benefits are more interpersonal development or something like spiritual searching, using your natal chart to understand the personality or the soul, and to kind of work with things in less of a predictive way, but more in a processing way. At the same time, of course, you have, and I'll stop here in a second, but let me just lay a few things out here because it's a quite, a lot to talk about. But, you do have predictive traditions all the way through in Western astrology. You have someone like William Lilly. If we just say Western astrology, and we mean maybe Anglo-American, if we just highlight English language astrology, William Lilly in 1665 predicts that London will burn, or I think it's 10 years before, but then the fire is 1665, 1666. And, that's a direct hit of someone who made a greatly accurate prediction. You have astrologers in the 20th century, French astrologer Andre Barbeau, making direct predictions about the fall of the USSR with the Neptune Saturn conjunction in the late 1980s. He predicts the pandemic years in 2020. So there is this tradition of direct prediction. And the last thing I'll say here, and then I'll kick it over to you guys, but we're having a revival in the West of ancient texts. And so, in the last 100 years, the Greek texts have been collated into critical editions, and then astrologer scholars have translated those Greek and Latin and Arabic texts into English. And so, for about the last 30 years, there's been a great revival of what we call timing techniques or Time Lord techniques that mirror some of the techniques that you in the Vedic tradition are very familiar with, like the dasha systems. There's a Greek version of that that has been revived, and that's very popular amongst my colleagues and my friends and the younger generation in America, the Gen Z. And so that's a little bit of the landscape of where we are. There's kind of some competing schools, but I do think that they're all alive. I mean, there's not one that's dominant. There's a lot of strains that are quite active right now.
So, okay, so what you're saying is that initially there was some kind of skepticism, but now people are generally warming up to the idea of predictive astrology. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that there's been ebbs and flows and seasons in the history, but my sense, maybe saying this differently, is that in the 20th century, it wasn't just in the field of astrology. There was across various fields a kind of embrace of what we might call humanist philosophy or maybe psychology. Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, figures like this sort of take over in the West. And there's a great strand of turning inward and maybe not being as materialistic. And I think the pendulum swung in the astrological world for a lot of astrologers in that direction, where they were saying, hey, we get way more out of this as an interpersonal tool or as a tool of the psyche. But I wouldn't say that it's only been that. I think there has always also been this predictive side that has been running with it. And, maybe there's sometimes when one side's a little bit more popular than the other. But my sense is that they've both been active almost continuously.
Okay. So, coming over to you, Alok sir. So, you practice both in India and abroad, as much as you teach here and in the Western society. So, what, in your opinion, is the difference in perception of predictive astrology in the Eastern society vis-a-vis the Western society?
I think one of the most important difference, if you are asking me differences between, I think you are asking me from the user side, right? That how people perceive in
Exactly.
East and West. So in East, when you come, say for if you come to Asia or specifically to India, people come to an astrologer only for prediction, right? So they come for a prediction, they come for a timeline, and they come for the remedy. And this is how we have done astrology for more than now 5,000 years, because the basic use of astrology is 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 not only to tell something about somebody about himself, that how what is his nature, how is his nature, what is his qualities or disqualifications, but to let him know that how the recent future is going to be, so that he can modulate his actions, he or she can modulate his action. And this is what is our perception, that when a native comes to us, we not only tell him about how the chart is placed for him in this lifetime, but we give him an idea about what is going to be in future. Now, when I go to the Western world, they are sometimes very surprised about our predictions, because they are not used to for it. So they are basically looking for more psychological based reading, that how his mind is going to operate, what are the traits, what are the good thing, what are the bad thing about him or her. And they are not still, now as Alexander said, that now they are still opening for the future side of the astrology, or the predictive side of the astrology. But most of the people has this perception that it is more about a chit chat, and a psychological kind of discussion. And that's why they call an astrologer a psychic also, right? So astrologers are called psychic, because they are using their ability of reading a chart to basically counsel the person. Now we are not in East. We are not only counseling, but we are advising also about his or her future actions. So I think that is something which is now evolving in the West, which as per my experience. But yes, this is as it is right now.
Okay. Okay. So now, SJ, coming back to you, you are a practicing astrologer. Like you said, you've been practicing. So when natives come to you, do they usually come to you? I mean, what kind of pain points do they come for? Is it for relationships, career, finances, health issues, or like we were discussing, deepening of self awareness, self healing? What is it that they come for usually?
I'd say I get, you know, all kinds, and I think that at least in my practice, a lot of it is, yeah, what's going to be going on this year. That's quite popular right now, like year ahead readings or readings where you talk about the future in a segment of time, like the next 6 months or the next year. What can I expect? I think their expectation is often less about tell me precisely what will happen. Like they're not expecting me to give a detailed description of events as they're going to unfold. Rather, it's more, like a weather report, you might say, where, okay, this area or these topics are central to what may be emerging here, generally speaking. And then I think, and this is how prediction is often treated in the West. I mean, it's very common that people want to know about the future, but it's more of, it's not that the choice is removed from how they think about the future. It's rather, here's like the weather report, like I said, it's going to be raining. And so you can choose to bring this umbrella or these shoes or have this type of jacket. And then they get to maneuver within, the options that are before them to sort of prepare for that type of weather. But I would say the topics are the same, the global human trials and tribulations, love, money, finance, job. I mean, just the common stuff that we all share. Those are very common amongst my clients. I will add the other topic that can often come up, maybe less so, is the past. And people really want to think about what's happened in the past and process the past. And, astrology is such a good tool for that because, if someone had a traumatic event or the end of a relationship or the beginning of a relationship or the birth of a child, and you can layer the astrology of that time in, it can provide relief and confirmation in a way that really nothing else can. So, yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, and just to come back to Alexa, that it's that expectation where we do want to talk about the future. I find in the West, but it's kind of how we do it is less. And I'm not assuming this about the Vedic practice, but from what I've seen is that it's a little bit more detailed and specific around what's going to happen, whereas in the West it's more general theme or activated topics that someone can use in a general way.
So what you're essentially saying is that it's not an absolute that you talk about. This will happen. This will not happen. Rather than, you know, this could happen. This could happen. This could also happen. It's
Yeah.
more generalized rather than an absolute.
Yes, and if I could just say one thing to maybe make it clear with an example. Let's say I think the seventh house in Vedic astrology is also marriage or love life. Does that know? Okay, maybe what do we share? Second house is money. 10th house career. So let's say someone's going to have a 10th house Saturn transit, and it's going to start next year, and we might say to someone, all right, Saturn is a planet that's going to require some effort and there may be some challenge. Okay. And that's going to be in your career starting on this date. And that's how we would begin a predictive conversation, rather than trying to put too much meat on that bone because you want reality to breathe. And I'm speaking kind of more from my particular view, a way to do this more than this is how everybody in the West practices. But I think it's pretty common how I am reading this, where you kind of describe things maybe more with the quality of the time as opposed to the specific unfoldments, as you say. And but the symbol set of astrology constrains. I mean, Saturn gives us something specific. The 10th house gives us something specific, and so that alone is predictive in its own way.
Okay. So, Alok sir, coming to you, as most of us know, you have a master's degree in psychology and you have several in Jyotish. So, can predictive astrology be combined with psychology and used in some kind of counseling or self healing or deepening of self awareness?
Obviously the job of an astrologer is not only to tell them the truth, because truth sometimes can be very bitter. So you have to have that understanding that how that person is right now placed, and where the psychology and my study of psychology comes into the picture, that you need not to be very straight when you are talking about a bad event which is going to happen in the future. But yes, you have to give them, you can give them a heads up. Okay, this is something, as AJ was saying, that okay, when Saturn is transiting in the 10th house, you can have a little bit of issues in the career, or maybe you can put more hard work in your career because Saturn is transiting from the 10th house. So so in Indian tradition, or in Vedic tradition, we use 75% astrology, 25% psychology, right? Whereas it can be reverse in Western, because because it is more discussion about the psyche and the more discussion about understanding the person. It is kind of a therapy which they treat it. Whereas one native who comes to an astrologer will keep coming to him again and again, maybe on a
Yes.
quarterly basis, on a monthly basis,
Yes.
right? So it's
Yes.
kind of a booked calendar for the entire year. Whereas in Vedic culture, we believe that if somebody has come to me once, I should be able to give him remedies and the instruction for the entire life, so that he doesn't need astrologers every now and then. But now, uh, I mean, that depends upon the culture of the country also, because that part of the world is basically trained like this, that they want to see the astrologers, or maybe the therapist, again and again, and then because of the social fabric, because they have less people to talk, so the astrologers or the therapist become like a friend, right? And somebody who knows everything about you, where you can share a lot of things. So it's more of a sharing in Western world, because it is more psychology. In India, in Vedic, it is obviously sharing is there, because the native will come with a problem statement, or maybe because like the way I do consultation, I will tell them the problem statement. Okay, this is right now you are facing, because we use dasha, we use birth chart, and then we apply transit, right? So we can tell them, okay, this is what you are going through, and and this you can expect. So right, what I feel right now is it is just reverse. Like in Asia or in India, you will say 25% psychology I use, 75% Jyotish I use. But for the Gen Z, if you talk about, so then we have to use a lot of counseling nowadays, because they can have issues with the parents, they can have issues with the education system or maybe job system. So there you simply cannot tell them, okay, after 10 years you will be a billionaire. They will not believe you, right? So then you have to basically calm them down, and then tell them, okay, your parents coming from this level, you are coming from this level, there is a difference, but they are looking for your betterment only. They are your well wishers. So that kind of stuff we also need to do nowadays. But I would like to tell you, the ancient astrologers were not like this. They will take 2 minutes, tell you everything straightforward on your face. That's it, done.
Yes, yes. Okay, SG, coming to you, let's talk about a very burning issue currently in our society, the AI. So,
Yes.
how do you think AI is shaping predictive astrology in the West? Is it giving it any shape at all, or is it got some kind of contribution?
Yeah, there's a big contribution because the AIs that we have now, they're called large language models, and how they work is that it's just predicting the next word in a sequence. So, because it's operating at the level of language, we know that the delivery of astrological meaning is linguistic. I mean, we put words together and deliver words to clients, whether it's spoken or written word. And so, because so much of astrology is word based, of course, these models can operate in the astrological realm as they generate words. And I think And this is a complex topic. It's the one I really like talking about. But I do think astrology is well positioned to be safe as well from the changes that AI is going to bring, because AI is going to help us articulate meaning and describe transits and describe, the like in your systems as you laid out there, Alok. So, the dashas, the natal chart, and then the transiting overlay. You can have an AI algorithm to compute things quite fast and maybe spit out some language that is probably applicable at some level. It's pretty good at that. But remember, the core of astrology doesn't need AI to be upgraded, because we already have the best measurement systems. We know where the equinox is. We know exactly and precisely where that is. We know the division of 12 precisely. I mean, AI isn't going to change how we measure the zodiac. AI is not going to change where the planetary positions are. And so, in some sense, I think astrology is protected in that AI can't change the core of what we do. And to me, and as I was thinking about this topic before the show, one thing I really felt strongly about was that the future of astrological prediction is a thing of the past. There's this kind of poetic phrasing you hear sometimes quoted in music, but the future is already a thing of the past. And I think that that's going to hold true with astrology. Yes, we're going to get some new tools to make some new language and deliver information. That will be limited, though, because there's a magic of two human consciousnesses. I don't know about you, Alexa, but when I'm in readings, I don't even know what I'm going to say often. It just, things kind of emerge. Now, I have my technical containers that I'm well trained in, but there's a mystery of how you connect human to human in the reading space. I don't think AI will be able to replace that fully. But so, that's kind of my answer on that. Yes, it's going to help us generate language in ways that can maybe more efficiently and maybe have more coverage and help us maybe make more creative connection in a certain way. But the core of it, it's not it. We're safe. Thankfully, we've been measuring this stuff accurately for thousands of years. We don't AI doesn't change it.
Alok, sir, can I have your ideas on AI and astrology?
So I fully agree with what AJ is saying, and I'm just adding something into that. So AI is going to send more and more natives to the astrologers, basically. So look what is happening nowadays. So every person has ChatGPT, and ChatGPT knows a lot of Jyotish, lot astrology, right? And then people are playing with ChatGPT. They are asking questions, and then ChatGPT is answering with a calculation also. But it is a matter of their life, right? And sometimes the moment you will start asking question with these AIs, they start hallucinating, and then the customer, I mean the person also, so is not sure what he's trying to, I mean the AI is trying to tell, and then he needs an astrologer to basically put a stamp. So what, how I see astrology in next 10 years is, maybe the person will come with a lot of analysis from chat gpt, or maybe more gpts are coming, and then they would like to have our stamp on that, that okay, I have done this much of the kind of research which astrologers were doing. The client will come up with that research, and then say, okay, ChatGPT is giving me four options. I can have a career in engineering. I can have a career in marketing also. I can have a career in mining also. What should I do? So, and this is the analogy which the ChatGPT is saying. And then the astrologer will say, okay, this option two is a better option for you because of this is logic. So this is how I think it is going to progress. And then any technology in any science or any subject is basically going to amplify that subject. And and as I always say, you know it, that that there was a time when yoga nobody was doing yoga 15 years back, right? Now everywhere in the world it is now there. Then nobody was talking about meditation. Nobody was talking about good health, Ayurveda. Now it is everywhere. Everybody, now people are going vegan. And then right now, the era in which we are entering, and we are right now, is the era of astrology, because of the stress, because of the aspirations of the younger generation of the people, and the people who are in mid age, they need everything very fast. So lot of people are going to come to astrologers, and then AI basically will enable those people to go to astrologers. This is what I think.
So, sir, what you are saying is that probably with AI, people are going to come to astrologers even more.
Yes, definitely, definitely. because they will get a lot of information, right? They will get a lot of information, but that information is all probable information which AI can give. So you need an expert to stamp that information.
Yes, yes. So
Like
in fact,
you can Google any disease, and then they will tell you all the symptoms in your body for one disease, right? So finally you will say, okay, I can have heart attack also, I can have diabetes also, I can have maybe cervical pain also. So what should I do? All of the symptoms are almost same. The same thing AI is going to do with astrology. So then you have to go to the doctor.
yes, sir. So in fact, I think that's what is happening, already started happening. Like you said, people ask ChatGPT, and obviously ChatGPT, being ChatGPT, will give a kind of three, four scenarios, and then the native gets confused and runs to an astrologer, like you said.
And then there is a strong need where people want somebody to listen to them, basically, because they have no one in their life to listen. So that human replacement is, I don't think it is possible right now. Maybe nobody knows the future. Maybe after 20 years, if that empathy, that emotion, if these GPTs can create, I'm not sure. But people come to us because they love to talk to us.
Yes,
And then the kind of hope an astrologer give, that is something which is right now missing, I think.
yes, exactly, sir. Exactly. Okay, SJ, coming to you. Um, do you see predictive astrology expand into areas like corporate decision making in the West?
Absolutely, and I would say that there is probably my guess, and is that there's been a tradition of power structure in the West using astrologers, probably continuously for thousands of years, is my assumption. My definite knowledge, because of the historical record, is that we know that presidents in the last century in America for sure were using astrologers, most notably Ronald Reagan. We know that Reagan's astrologer, Gene Dixon, was part of a school of astrologers in LA that included a few different really popular astrologers that had notable clients at upper echelons of society. So, I mean, there's this famous quote that's misattributed to JP Morgan: millionaires don't use astrologers, billionaires do. Even if that quote isn't something JP Morgan said, I think that the sentiment is accurate, that the upper echelon understands the astrological symbolism and the cycles. One thing right now that's maybe a case in point for this is that there's something called the fourth turning. You may have heard of this. It's an 84-year cycle that is quite popular in the business world. Ray Dalio, he's a famous billionaire investor. He came out with a big series of talks, I think 2 years ago, about how this decade is a major turning point, and he used as part of that justification the fourth turning thesis. We astrologers know, and in the West, a lot of people, particularly in predictive astrology for mundane events or world events, use the what we call the outer planets, or the modern planets or transpersonal planets or whatever. But Uranus has that 84-year cycle that seems to be timed with these major events. And so I think they're keyed in. I mean, billionaires are smart usually. They don't dismiss ideas, and they want to get as much information as they can get in. So I assume they're already using it, and I assume that that will just continue, is my sense for sure.
Okay. Alok, sir, coming over to you. Do you think now the time is right when the West can give astrology a respected place in the universities or in the academic circles? They can give
Definitely,
predictive.
definitely, it has to be there. I mean, this is a science which is related with human lives, right? And this is, I mean, you know it. In India, we say this is the first science available on this earth, right? And then more and more people are going to use it. Everybody, as all billionaires use astrology as per my information. I consult a lot of people, uh, because their stakes are so high, and then you can do all the analysis, but there is still an element of doubt, because we all are living in time, right? For example, I mean, you can do all the planning, you for launching a product tomorrow morning, but maybe US president can come up and do a press conference and everything is done, finished, right? So what you will do in these kind of scenarios? So the West also has to understand this, that that our life is influenced by these planets, right? And then it is a better idea to learn this into a structured manner rather than somebody reading two books and then start calling himself or herself as an astrologer. In India, you have universities, and then we are learning astrologies for centuries, and then this has produced really good result, and it has really given us a lot of relief in terms of future anxieties. So I think yes, the West and then the whole world. I mean, so every in what I have found in every culture, be it Arabic, be it Western world, be it Indian, be it Asian, everywhere there is an element of astrology, right? Because everybody can see sun, right? They have all of the culture has some sort of astrology, right? Maybe somebody is maybe some culture has done more work on the transit, whereas somebody has done more work on the spiritual aspect. Every culture, every country or continent, you can say, have their kind of astrology, because everybody can see the sun, right? Everybody can see the moon. And then when you start your day with the planet names, say Sunday, or maybe Monday is like coming from these planets. So when you start your day with a name of a planet, how can you say that these planets are not going to impact your life? And this is something which is universal. I mean, if today is say Tuesday in India, it is going to be Tuesday in America, right? So this is something which the entire world agrees upon. Otherwise, you will find a lot of conflict in the world. So I think West will also awake, and then people will start learning astrology in a more structured way.
Okay. 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 SJ, coming to you, what ethical challenges could the Western societies witness with this resurgence of predictive astrology?
Yeah, I just want to say a quick follow up there on the last question. I mean, we see in the West right now, in terms of the institutions, the emergence of the study of astrology in the formal academic setting. In Britain, there is the master's program. The name escapes me right now, but there's a master's program in astrology led by Nick Campion, who's one of the most famous academics who's written many, many books about astrology. So you can study it in that context. There is the school, California Institute of International Integral Studies in San Francisco, that Dr. Richard Tarnas, who was a prized academic, then went to this institution, which is accredited, and they teach a kind of cosmological theory of reality. They get in through more of the psychological and the philosophic, and then you can bring astrology in, and the academics will allow it in through that doorway. So I just want to say it's exciting in that sense that I think we are getting it in more than we ever have been. But to come to your question, the ethical challenges of predictive astrology, yeah, this is a hotly debated thing. And I'm a member of ISAR, International Society of Astrological Research. There's a ethics code that the ISAR promulgates as an institute, as an organization. And in that, we have some explicit ethical principles. They recommend, if you're going to be talking about future events that could be generating fear, that you be sure to tell people, astrologers can't see the future. We get things wrong. There's these disclaimers that the ethical guidelines would encourage astrologers to attach to their predictions. And I can see that even if you have a certain strong sense, like, and I'll just say this one. I mean, and I don't know what it's like in the Vedic world right now. Maybe you can share it, Alexa, if you want. But there's a sense that war is on the horizon. I mean, this is something that the astrologers are saying because of these astrological cycles. Uranus and Gemini, for example, has always been America at war. That's just started this year, right as in July, in the tropical zodiac. And so, how do we talk about that as astrologers, knowing this cycle is about to hit? We have Neptune and Aries in the Western tropical. That was the last time that happened was America's Civil War. So we've got a lot of war vectors right now, and it's something I grapple with every day. How do I talk about this to my audience? How do I share about it? And what I usually tell them is simply, hey, these are what the cycles are indicating. I don't know the future. I don't want there to be any war. So, we can try to pray for peace or something like this. But at least you're aware of the cycle so that you can process it psychically when the events, if they do happen, according to the astrological cycle, you're psychically and emotionally and mentally prepped for it. And so that's how I try to talk about it, rather than saying, hey, there's definitely going to be a big war, because I really don't know, is my honest sense. I mean, I am concerned as an astrologer, highly concerned, but the future's not here yet, kind of thing. So anyhow, that's an example of the kind of ethical conundrums that we face. And I think we'll have to increasingly, face it. I'm just glad we have organizations like ISAR that many astrologers are working to figure out how to do this ethically.
Okay, coming over to you, Alok sir. You've been mentoring students for years now. So, what do you tell your students regarding the ethical values that an astrologer must have?
So we have certain set of ethics which we want to, which normally we communicate to our students, and then I talk it publicly also. Number one, um, is is don't instigate fear in anybody. That's the first thing. That is not that, because when you create fear in anybody's mind, then basically the person starts losing hopes, and it's a big karma for the astrologer also, because that, so you are sitting on a very authentic post, and then when on that post when you say something, people take it seriously, so you have to be very responsible what you are talking about. So number one is fear. Number two is like the astrologer is a consultant, so we should limit ourselves. I mean, it can different in Western world, but I am telling what I tell to my student. So we should limit ourselves to consulting only, rather than, we are not gemologists, we are not crystal experts. So these are the two things. One is like, as you say, there is one doctor and one pathologist, or maybe a chemist. We are not chemists, we are doctors. So I always ask my student to limit themselves to consulting only, rather than selling stones or crystals or whatnot. What happens because of this, that there is an element of greed comes in the stock. And then somebody who doesn't need maybe a yellow sapphire or maybe a diamond, you will recommend them diamond because you want to make some bucks out of that sale. So this is something which second thing which I always advocate. Number three is always that when we consult somebody, and then so it's a relationship between a astrologer and a native. You should not get personal with any of your clients, because the moment you will become personal, for example, you become very good friends, or maybe you are in love with one of your client, then you won't be able to read the chart, because the emotions will come. So you cannot be detached, and then you won't be able to read the chart as if you can read it for a person whom you are with very professional with. And then the fourth one is, obviously, our job is to create hopes, not to not to make them lose hopes. So at the end, maybe somebody can have a very very tough life, but at the end we need to suggest them remedies, and then we need to assure them that, okay, if you go on the right path, you manage your food, you manage your diet and your lifestyle, and do some little bit of some of the remedies, you will be happy. So we should not assure that, okay, if you do this you will be a billionaire, but we should assure that, okay, by doing this you will be happy, because the basic purpose he's coming to you is that he wants to be more happy. The happiness comes from maybe a relationship, or maybe money, or a power, whatnot. So this is what I normally ask my student to follow, and I personally follow it.
Okay. SJ, would you like to add anything or should we move further?
Yeah, just quickly add. I mean, I just really love that. I appreciate hearing that from you, Alok. So that's a great kind of high level summary. Only one thing I'll add, and I learned this from you. You all might know this astrologer, Dennis Harness. Harness. He's an American Vedic practitioner, someone who I met a few years back. And when I met him, what he told me was, he said, "Hey, SJ, this is what I was taught. You don't bring up the three Ds in the reading." and that's death, disease, or divorce. And he says if you can kind of just stay clear with that, then maybe it helps to not engender fear, as you say, which I really like what you said. Don't engender fear. Try to give hope to that client or that native. It's very important to do that. So that's all I'll say. In addition, big topic though, a lot to
I
talk
I
about with ethics.
I agree about I'm fully agree. I even I don't teach death calculation
Yeah.
because when you are teaching that death calculation, and it is in our shastras, like I can always teach, but the student is also human. So once the moment he or she will learn it, he will go back to his husband, her husband chart, or maybe the child chart, or his own chart, and then the truth can be bitter. So I fully agree with this, that we should never predict that. Never.
Yes, sir. I remember in our class, when you were taking our class, there were a lot of requests from my fellow students to for you to teach them how to see death. And you were very clear that unless until I get instructions from my Gurudev, I will not teach.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
Because
Okay.
the student, Anjitaji, has to be mature enough to digest. It's a very hard truth of life.
Yes, sir. And like you said, so the moment we know some kind of combinations, we go right into and check our spouse's chart or our parents' chart or our kids' chart, and then, we are in stress.
Yes.
Okay. SJ, coming to you, I'd like to ask you, is the time right for the West to treat predictive astrologers professionals as are they ready to treat it as a coveted profession, or will it still take some time?
I think it's going to take some time with that. I think astrologers are probably more in the camp of entertainer in the West. And I'm speaking more here of the prominent astrologers, the well known astrologers in our society. They are grouped with, and I won't name names, but there's some really big famous astrologers that tend to be more grouped with like writers. They're often on TV shows, interviewing famous people. So they're entertainers or writers. Even where I live here in Albania, it's segments on news programs. They'll bring the astrologer in as a kind of fun or playful segment. It's not so. In one sense, it's given respect, but it's not given the same respect as like the finance report, or you might say a weather person, even where there's the kind of veil of science that discourse comes under. So I think in some ways, I actually think that may protect astrology and astrologers because it gives us room to almost do what we do without having the pressures or burdens of the formal profession or the serious world, so called. It's like the court jester can come and do a lot of things in front of the king, and that court jester is not threatened. Um, yeah, so that's my sense. I just hope that increasingly astrology will be heard and included in the conversation, even if it's not given the same seat as something like, you know, I don't know, a chemist or some, something like that, because it's important to find meaning. And this is what we were talking about earlier in the age of AI. The delivery of meaning to a human being, that's mysterious. That's not something that only words can do. There's something else that's like at a soul level of how we get meaning. You go to sleep at night and you have a strange dream. I mean, the LLM, maybe this will happen in the future where they can implant dreams. You can tell it, give me this dream, and it'll give you that dream. But until it does that, there are these mysteries of existence that need a seat at the table, and astrology can do that. We have a kind of a mic to deliver mystery and sanctity to people, and so yes, I hope that in that sense it's taken seriously. But it's complex. But yeah, I'm not as optimistic there on that one.
Alok, would you like to add anything, or should we move further?
I am also hopeful about this, that there will be the recognition from the society as well as from the government also, not only in West but in the entire world.
Okay. So finally, How do you see predictive astrology in the Western society specifically down the line, say in the next 10 years or 20 years?
For me,
Alok sir?
Okay, so I'll tell you what I have found in my journey. So the biggest problem, which is going to be in the entire world, but right now it is the biggest problem in the West, is depression. So more and more people are going to come on to astrologers about their mental traumas, and uh, uh, then they want to be heard, and then lot of maybe OCDs or bipolars, and there are a lot of things which is happening in human mind nowadays. I think the I think it will be a good idea for the Western astrologers to do some research on the psychosomatic aspect of human, specifically the psychosomatic diseases, which is now very prevalent in the entire world, because the emotions are going to be the next pandemic. Basically, it is already a pandemic, but it is going to be worst because of the social fabric in entire world. Even in India, Anjita ji, you will see that we have lost the joint family culture, and then we are also into a nuclear family culture, and there are no friends. So people don't have anybody to share about their traumas, and then the traumas become more problematic. So this is something which I want that Western astrologers or Western world should come up with some of the remedies which can heal the mind of the person. I think by just talking or maybe counseling will not help in case of a psychosomatic issue, because at one point of time when you are talking to somebody, he will understand, but he is like forced by the mind. For example, in OCD case, like you can talk to that person anything, but that obsessive compulsive disorder again will come after 30 minutes, and then the person is forced to do. So obviously in Vedic culture we have a lot of remedies to control mind, and meditation is one of the finest, and then we have a lot of chanting. I would be very happy, and when if Western astrologers can come up also some tactical remedies, basically some takeaways and to do things which can help humans to come out of this pandemic which I see. uh, I mean, rest everything is, I think everybody is doing their bit.
Okay. SJ, over to you. How do you see the future of predictive astrology?
yeah, and I think this is. Uh, Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to jump in on there. You said to future predictive astrology, just 10 years down the line. Is that? Yeah, yeah. I am quite optimistic. I think this is where AI is really going to help because to me, it's an information deficit right now that you have to go to. It's gotten better. I mean, I can go to a website right now and get a lot of information about my chart in real time. 20, 30 years ago, you had to go to an astrologer who had older computers and it took a lot longer to calculate the chart or even present a printed copy. 50 years ago, no computers, or maybe 60 years ago, as a hand calculation. So it took a day probably to even make a chart. So my vision is that it becomes quite instant and integrated. And this is where we see things like the cell phone apps now, where, I can get pinged messages. The moon has entered my sixth house, and get a little message like, okay, focus on my health and maybe lock in with some of my work or something. And I think AI will help us with that to have a quicker delivery of what's happening in our charts, so we can even work with it throughout the day if we want. And that may help us. So there's that side of it. But two, I really am optimistic with social media, like what we're doing, and even Instagram or other social media platforms, where even knowing that like there is going to be a new moon, like we just had this new moon that was this eclipse a few days back, just knowledge of that, and then maybe knowing that it's in this part of your chart and this house, and knowing what that means, just at a basic level, like teaching kids that first house is this, how to have you teach the alphabet, and that will help the society. Because like you're saying, Alexa, like if someone's depressed and they have Saturn in that sixth house, that helps them be like, okay, this is going to take some time, and it gives them hope, to just be aware of it. And so I'm hoping this, the awareness of it, with a little bit more specificity, and then the AI will allow for delivery of that awareness, where we can have some breakthroughs here. But I'm really excited about it. I really think it's going to be more efficient and more powerful every year from now, every 6 months.
Okay, on this note, I think we'll have to conclude our discussion for today. So, SJ, Alok sir, it was indeed a pleasure to have both of you on our channel today and hope we connect sometime soon with a new topic to discuss.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you,
you for having
SJ.
me.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Alexa. Nice to meet you. Bye bye.